gonna take you on a quick tour of the bike for a second. So this is my beautiful Norden 901. I'm gonna take you on a little ride, talk about the bikes that I've had, from Harleys to this Norden. I have my Moscow bags in the garage because I'm not carrying anything. Although I did want to bring some water. I'll have to just make some stops as I see some gas stations to hydrate because it is super hot. Probably do that in a little bit once I get low on gas. So I'm going to be doing a quick rever ride that I've done before. So here we go. I'm just going to ride that one. Follow route line, easy enough. Where am I starting at here? Going down Eagle? Okay. I'll just do that. Okay. All right. Wallet. We're good to go. All right. The bike is reading 122 Fahrenheit. I don't know what that would be in Celsius, but it's hot. It is hot. It does not feel that bad, honestly. But you know, it's certainly not the best. All right. All right. So just feeling out the bike a little bit. Get here. All right. All right. So I'm gonna get into the bikes that I've owned, from Harleys to Huskies. So I started riding 2 years ago in August of 2020. So, you know, the pandemic hit. We're all locked inside and I guess craving something to enjoy outside and you know, I guess get some sanity back in our lives. And I looked into motorcycles a year prior and decided against taking that up at the time. So I'll explain that again in a different video, kind of how I got into motorcycling. But my first motorcycle that I actually ever sat on, so I'll go there, a year or so before I started actually riding, I guess, my wife took us on an amazing hot air balloon ride in Bucks County over the farmland and beautiful scenery on Sunset, with this awesome, you know, pilot and crew that follows you with the truck, you know, and you land in some farmer's backyard and hope that he's nice. So anyway, it was an awesome experience. I think it was for my birthday or something. So shout out to my wife, Lindsay, but it was an awesome gift, and we had rescheduled it a bunch of times because of weather, which actually made me feel very good about the guy who we were flying with. Was like, yeah, we're gonna just do it safe. Nonetheless, this group of people were, you know, it's kind of their hobby, and then they take customers up, you know, to make some money off it. But it was just the two of us, the pilot, and I think maybe one or two of like the folks in the group who help support the ride or the flight. And the rest of the crew follows you in their big truck, and you know they fold up the big parachute or whatever you call it on the hot air balloon and stuff it in the trunk, and then, you know, drive you back to where you started. And that whole crew was just an awesome group of people. They had us do a champagne toast at the parking lot at the end, and some snacks, and we were just, you know, catching up, getting to know each other. And one guy just, you know, declined to have a glass of champagne, and you know, for whatever reason. But I found out that it was because he was riding his motorcycle home that night, and that just got me thinking. I don't know, I never would have thought to go up to somebody to ask them about their motorcycle, you know, before. I mean, I always thought they were really cool. I I guess I would always look at, you know, the Harleys and the baggers and I guess assume they don't want me to ask them about something that, you know, that they're all about. You know, if I know nothing, I don't know. Which I've learned that's a very wrong way of thinking about it. But, you know, you got the baggers, you've got the Harley riders, and you've got the, you know, the street bike riders with their Ducatis, and, you know, maybe they're too cool to really want to spend any time talking to you about stuff you don't know anything about as well. And then, you know, there's the dirt bike riders, and living in Philly for 10 years, the most I've seen on people on dirt bikes were riding down the street doing wheelies and stuff. So I don't know. I just, you know, I never felt like it was the thing that I could talk to a person about. And but, you know, we were already sort of connected on this topic of the hot air balloons and stuff, and he just happened to have his bike. It was a Yamaha Bolt, so their version of like a cafe racer, cruiser type of styling. And man, I fell in love with it. I mean, I was like, it's not super cruisery and baggery. It's like, I don't think those are words, but it wasn't, you know, a cruiser really. It was kind of a cafe racer, but it was sort of stock. So it was like, you know, out of the box, it looked awesome. And it was a Yamaha, so I was like, oh, very sensible choice, good sir. You got a Yamaha motorcycle, and it looks this cool. And wow, okay, this is awesome. And I said, can I like sit on it? Like, can I just like see what it feels like? He's like, yeah, here you go. You swing a leg over it. I probably tried to get over it on the right-hand side, and he probably told me to, you know, the better way if you're learning just to start on the left-hand side and swing your leg over it. But anyway, yeah, I swung my leg over it with the engine off. It just felt like this was great. Just sitting there in the parking lot in the dark, and I just loved it, man. It felt great. So I of course asked the next obvious question is, can I like hear what it sounds like? So I was like, yeah, of course. So he turns on turns the key on, and I was like, oh my god, is it gonna start? Am I gonna, you know, am I gonna start going? And he's like, yeah, you know, no. So he turned on the ignition and started it up, and I was like, this is really cool, man. Like, this is a thing that I've never actually done, and I've always wanted to, I've been intrigued about, been dissuaded from, for good reason, and it just felt like, okay, this validates my interest. I want to know more. So I'll go through again my getting into riding, but that style of bike led me to looking into like cruisers and the cafe racer style, and frankly, if I was going to do that, I kind of wanted to just like go with a tried and true. I was really close to doing the Bolt. I had a deposit in on one of them. I ultimately made a last minute decision like that night before, when I was going to go get it the next day. The night before, I said, I don't want to do this. I want to just get a Harley and take a look at it and see if these work for me. And lo and behold, I ended up going with an 883. So I went with a guy who I took a lesson with, which was really a great experience. I got to learn and feel really comfortable and confident with riding. And he basically became my shopping assistant and helped me, you know, pick out this bike. So okay. So now I got some open space. I do need to find some fuel at some point. Well, the night before we're going to go up to this dealer a little far away, I said, hey, you have this relationship with the local Harley dealer, right? Why don't we just go there? Like, just scrap the Yamaha thing. Let's just go to the Harley dealership, see if I like anything. I'll sit on it and feel it, and okay, we'll be good. Frankly, if there was like a dealer with a Yamaha Bolt, and I was there and I sat on it, I probably just would have gotten that. So I really, really liked it. So anyway, the next morning went over the bridge to New Jersey, to Barb's Harley Davidson, and sat on an 883. It was super comfortable as far as the positioning. You know, the 1200 was a little bit taller. Sorry, yeah, I sat on an Iron 883. It looked the part. It felt comfortable with me sitting on it. The seat height is super low, like 25 inches or something really, really, you know, low to the ground, easy for me to operate and feel comfortable on as my first bike. And I bought that, you know, just right out the gate. The buddy who I took a lesson with, you know, came and helped me, yeah, we bought that. He rode it home for me, and I finally had it in my house, in my garage, and that was it, man. I started with the 883. I took a lot of roads, you know, back roads like this, but even more like, you know, farmlandy roads. Got some beautiful pictures of that thing, you know, rode it up towards Bucks County, and there's some beautiful areas around there as well. And, you know, enjoyed it for what it was. It really, you know, felt the part. I kind of love the rumble and the vibrations of the engine. I love the sound of it. I love the look of it. You know, more than I do now, frankly. But you know, you grow or change, whatever. And so at some point, I decided I want to learn more about like what, you know, how the right way to corner, the most efficient way, and I was learning about suspension and the geometry of the motorcycle and how it how it behaved under certain circumstances and in turns or under acceleration or under braking, and like realized that like my 883 was perfect for what it was and was not super advanced in its technology. Obviously, it was an air-cooled motor, which is, you know, awesome, and you know, helps give it that sound, that V-twin sound. It's a V-twin. So I looked on Harley's website and realized that they have another motorcycle in the Sportster family, which I still wanted to stay in. I didn't want to really go and get up to this big, you know, tall handlebars, and put a bunch of bags on there and go cruising for hundreds of miles a day. No, I still wanted to just simply have a Sportster style bike, but I wanted to get more performance out of it. Well, lo and behold, the Roadster was in my sights. The Roadster was built on the same, you know, Sportster platform, but it moved up from the engine of the 883 to the 1200. So pretty big jump in power, but more attractive to me. It had much better tires, much better front suspension. It had upside down forks. So it just had more to sort of offer and get to know, and also the seat, or sort of the stance of the position, I guess, of the seat and the handlebars was more sort of aggressive, and so, you know, I felt like I wanted to get more sort of into, you know, better technically in riding. So that just seemed like a good package, you know, for me, and I loved the styling of it too, except for the pipes were ugly. Surprised I didn't change that sooner. But anyway, I got that bike. It was really, really, really awesome. I was really, really happy to move to that platform, to that bike, and you know, really liked it. But frankly, one day I was coming home from work, I think it was, and I looked at this turn I've definitely taken a bunch of times, but I took it too quickly, and was certainly able to make the turn, and I knew like the road was totally clear, so I was a little bit more aggressive with it, with my speed coming into the turn. And I was like, I had a little bit of an oh shit moment, and I really just felt like I don't need power for power's sake. And even though this bike did give me more, you know, performance in terms of like the suspension and you know, the power, and it really was more power than I needed or for what I ultimately decided I wanted. And so it was just sort of it was asking to go fast, that bike, you know what I mean? So and that really wasn't my goal, you know. So anyway, I was looking, you know, pretty quickly to get into something different, and I have some friends, the first guys who actually took me out on a ride, they do some off-road stuff, and I didn't know what that meant, but, you know, I'll get into their bikes in a minute. But I was intrigued. I started watching videos about, you know, adventure riding or sort of dirt and gravel riding, and I was like, now that seems like a really interesting concept. You can have a ton of fun going 20 miles an hour down a gravel road. More fun for me than simply going, you know, super fast on a straightaway, or you know, quickly around a turn. I think being more technical and slow around obstacles and you know, ruts and balancing, and like that challenge was way more intriguing to me. So I got more and more into looking at that. But I had no idea what I was talking about or talking myself into. So I decided, let me get something that can handle some, you know, gravel and some off pavement stuff, and see if I like it. But I also want something that's going to be, you know, a beautiful looking bike, something that I'm going to be like excited to ride all the time. And that brought me quickly to the Triumph Scrambler. So I went to Quaker City Motorsports in Manayunk, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Great guys there. I guess I bought 2 bikes there and sold them back 3 bikes. So yeah, they gave me you know, decent price on the Harley, and I ended up taking a Triumph Scrambler. It was new. It was not exactly the color I wanted, honestly, even though it was a special color design. It was like that sandstorm. It was very pretty, actually looked really amazing in pictures, but frankly I just didn't like it all that much. I really loved that sort of khaki matte green that they have, and so I really wanted that. They had one and it was used, and for some reason they priced it higher than the new other one, because whatever their profit margins needed to be, it made 0 sense. But nonetheless, it was used, and the throttle response seemed shaky to me, so I just quickly decided to move forward with that Scrambler. So it was a ton of fun. I really enjoyed learning a new bike. You know, the engine was so different. It was it felt like I was riding a bicycle, you know, with how quickly I could just sort of you know, flick the bike around. You know, I could not feel like I could do that with the Harley very well. You know, but I think it had a 21-inch front, maybe a 17-inch rear, and it had the spoked tires, and I was like, this is cool, man. Like I could totally get some off-road stuff in, and you know, the tires actually were decent for gravel. So that's what I did. I said, this is what I think I want to do, and even if I don't want to, I still love the style of the bike, and it's a Triumph, and it's, hey, I could keep this on the street and pop around town. I could do anything on this bike. So it was a perfect bike at that point for me. So I brought it on some gravel roads wherever I could find them, and I absolutely was just so in love with that feeling of riding on this sort of almost shaky ground, if you will. It sounds kind of insane if you want to, like, you know, if you want to be unstable. Well, I just, again, thought it was more of a challenge and more engaging riding that way, and I loved it. Now we got some beautiful scenery here, really beautiful. Wow, coming out of that turn just opens up beautifully. So anyway, I had the Scrambler. I took it on a nice long ride one time down to Maryland to visit my family. It actually did pretty great for that long ride. Like, it was very comfortable. I loved the upright sort of standard position seating. It was great. Like, absolutely an awesome bike. Like, I would definitely get that again. Even though, like, it's a heavy kind of old engine. I mean, so I probably would, actually. I'd probably get that bike again. But anyway, really loved it. And because I loved, you know, going on some gravel roads and doing more of that stuff, I decided I wanted a bike that would do even more of that. But I didn't want to get, like, straight up into, like, a big adventure bike. And I didn't even consider dual sports, which was, you know, my first mistake. I wanted, like, a cool looking bike that did everything, that, you know, performed really well on the road and even off-road, and, you know, could, I mean, I wanted to be able to, like, carry a bag on it, because, you know, when I went to Maryland to visit my family, I was like, I strapped a backpack on the back, and it was, like, kind of shaky, and, like, the water bottle was almost falling out, and I was like, I want something that, like, is designed to handle everything. So I looked, you know, closely at adventure bikes, and I hated the look of the BMW GS's ever since I started looking at motorcycles. I mean, you're talking about an Iron 883 compared to, you know, 1250 GS is, like, could not be more different. So yeah, I started to really appreciate just the overall design, the utility of those bikes, and so the 750 and the 850 caught my eye because the 1250 is insanely heavy, obviously way more expensive. You know, it just wasn't for me. I mean, I was hesitant to get on something that heavy, especially with that type of seat height, early in my, you know, riding career. So I ended up really loving the design of the 750, the 40th anniversary edition. You know what? I think this is actually a bit of a gravel road. Yep, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know where it leads, but we'll see. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a road that I took that I've taken the Triumph on. And cool. All right. So I love the styling of the 750 40th anniversary edition. That was really cool. Found one in Maryland. Specifically, it was a low suspension version. So it had a low suspension and a low seat. So it was, like, perfect for me. I was able to get, you know, a bike that would be capable enough for what I wanted, and even though it was super heavy, I think at like 490 pounds, the low seat really made me feel extremely comfortable, the low suspension and seat height. So that's what I did. I rode my Triumph down to that dealer. They honored their trade-in quote. Yeah, they were really good down there. It was Bob's BMW in Maryland. They were awesome. So it was in and out of there the same day. Rode home with the BMW. It was awesome. And I started going out on longer rides. Tried to find some more dirt and gravel trails. Joined the PA Adventure Riders group on Facebook. The BMW Connect app, which was really cool, connects up to your dashboard on the BMW. You can import in GPX tracks, and then it maps it out for you, and you turn-by-turn directions on that. Really great platform, which I kind of miss, actually. But anyway, that bike got me out to like a lot of different terrain. I took it out to the Pine Barrens a couple times. First time tipping a bike over was there, and that was, my God, a learning experience. From learning how to ride better in sand to learning how to pick a bike up off of you. So, luckily everything was fine, but so I basically got myself into it's all public roads down there in the Pine Barrens. Can either be paved road, packed gravel, packed sand, or extraordinarily deep soft sand. I mean, and these are all just legal roads. So I took this thing down there and I was like, whoa, this is sand, this is so much fun, and whoa, like I'm learning this new thing. Whoa, it's kind of a little squirrely, but I'm staying upright. All right, let's keep going. And then I found myself in some seriously deep sand, man, and I had no idea anything about riding in sand. So, a couple times my front wheel kind of wiggled, and I was like, oh man, this is dicey. But I kept going. I kept the bike up, and I was like, okay, just get past that and get better at it. Well, eventually I hit a spot in the sand where I just totally washed out. I may have grabbed the front brake. I probably at least pulled the clutch in or rolled off the throttle pretty aggressively, which shifted weight towards the front of the bike, which then made the bike dig into the sand a bit, which is all wrong. And yeah, I went down. I also didn't have my tires pressure let out at all. So I went down and I was by myself. I was on this small little road where nobody was coming through at all. And it fell over on my right side, and the bike fell over on me. Luckily, I had my adventure boots on, so they were very much protected. And in fact, the bike didn't even actually lay on my leg. I mean, it could have, but it was I was basically between the front crash bars and the pannier racks, and everything was fine. But yeah, I ended up with the bike sort of laid over on my boot, but pinning my boot into the sand. So, I mean, I tried to just pull my leg out from under there so hard, and just I took my gloves off and started digging my way out, but that didn't work at all. I tried to unhook. I tried to just pull my leg out from the boot so that I could just simply. What's this guy want me to do? Is this guy serious? Just take my boot off, basically, and what are you doing? So yeah, that didn't work at all. It was just pinned in there. But anyway, the last resort I could think of was to basically use my left leg, which was obviously free, and if you can imagine me putting my foot onto my seat, sort of like the bottom of my foot on the top of the seat, and basically leg pressing it up. You know, with me, my back was on the ground. I basically leg pressed it with one leg up so I could squeeze my right leg out from under the bike, and that worked perfectly, thankfully. I was totally fine, you know, went down in sand, so everything was fine, and I wasn't going fast, you know, which was another mistake about riding in sand, but, you know. So, you know, that all worked out really well, luckily, and it was a nightmare trying to pick the bike up. Well, actually, I was able to pick it up pretty easily, but turning it around to get the hell out of there, because I looked on the map and there was quite a ways to go. I was like, if it gets deeper, I can only paddle in sand for so long before I, you know, burn my clutch or just get tired and just frustrated or whatever. I mean, so I tried to turn it around. Turning that thing around in like super soft sand in like a small single track area, basically, it was a nightmare. So yeah, I got out of that. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I went back to the Pine Barrens, you know, aired my tires out, put a lot more weight on the back, towards the back of the bike, and just cruised through the sand, man. It was so fun. It was so fun. So I learned from that, and it was a really good experience. And then again, I was like, I want to do more off-pavement stuff. Definitely. So I contacted this motocross rider. This dude, about an hour from my house, he's got a motocross track in his backyard. I mean, you know, a giant yard. I mean, property, I guess. And he taught me how to, you know, ride motocross bikes, essentially. Not really well, but just like, you know, the concepts, and had me on a little bike. And then, you know, did all this stuff and trained, and then hopped on my GS and hopped on the GS and did the same stuff, and met the limits of certainly found the limits of the GS's ground clearance very quickly, and just the overall, just it being so heavy, and you know, the suspension was not great for type of off pavement stuff, and so I really was thinking what would be next to solve for, you know, these couple things. I just wanted to solve for not a giant seat height. You know, low weight as much as I can, but also solid ground clearance and solid suspension travel. Now that is, you know, the perfect mixture of that doesn't quite exist, right? But I was having trouble keeping track of what the options were and what all options had an advantage or disadvantage from each other, and you know, that was really hard to keep track of. So I actually let's go out this way. So I actually developed a spreadsheet that would allow me to compare bikes, you know, color code pros and cons, and do calculations to see if the price was worth the extra benefits and all this stuff. And I kept coming up with, well, I'll back up. One of the things I decided, well, I was able to talk to my wife about and put into play was, it's a good thing you don't follow that just straight in the grass, was getting a second bike, actually, that would actually be kept down in New Jersey, near the Pine Barrens with those sandy roads. That would be more dedicated to that type of riding. So I'd keep the GS here at home for, you know, more road-oriented trips and stuff, and whatever, and then have the second bike down there so that we spend more time down the shore and utilize a different bike. So I ended up actually buying a Royal Enfield Himalayan, which I had always had my eye on. I love that bike. I love the styling of it. I love what it is. I loved it for what it was, you know, just very simple, and a kind of a workhorse. But mine had a lot of issues. So very quickly, I mean, it couldn't hold a charge. It couldn't hold idle speed when you were at stops. It just would die. It would die in the middle of shifting sometimes. So the dealer never really fixed it. I sold it back to them, and at the same time I was picking up the check for that, I rode my BMW over, and I said, how much do you want to give me for this too? And they gave me a really solid price. It matched the retail price of my next bike, so I said, no brainer, take it off my hands, write me the check, and let's move on to the next one. So how did I finally come to the Norden? So again, I brought this into my spreadsheet, and I looked at all the pieces there to say, the bike weighs X number of pounds, the bike has X number of inches of suspension travel, the bike, the engine produces this much horsepower and torque, the seat height is, you know, X inches, what else did I look at? Well, the price, of course, the power to weight ratio in terms of, you know, it's how much does it weigh and how much torque and horsepower. So I looked at all those components, and I looked at the Norden, I compared it to the Himalayan, I compared it to the Tenere 700, Africa Twin for like half a second. I never really liked that bike much, mostly just looks. I don't know why. I'm a hater, but... So, oh yeah, I compared it to the 850 GS, the 1250 GS, low suspension, simply because it's, you know, the added weight there, I just couldn't see myself keeping up. I never even considered an 890 Adventure. My opinion is on the looks of the KTMs don't make up for how amazing they are off-road and just general workhorses. So if I was going to go with the KTM platform, 890 platform, I might as well just get the Norden because it looks amazingly better. What other bikes did I look at? I can't even really remember, but I started to eventually add some dual sports into there. And just I didn't want to. I wanted to be able to spend enough time on, you know, having fun on the road, that I wanted, you know, more of an adventure bike and not just a dual sport. Okay, so against every single bike I would put it up against, the Norden just had so many more advantages. Let's talk about price first. So the Norden retails for basically $14,000 even, and you know, that's like $4,000 more than the Tenere, but you can't get a Tenere anywhere. If you're going to get one, you're going to either wait like a couple years, and I guess you could get it at the retail price if the dealer was willing to do that, or you could buy it, you know, secondhand, which is going to be a used bike at a higher cost than $10,000 anyway. So you know, a couple $1,000s more than the Tenere. But the Tenere has, you know, virtually no, you know, technology around, you know, traction, and maybe it has ride modes, but I don't really know. I don't know its ABS system. I wanted the ability to turn off the rear ABS. The 750 GS did not give me that ability, and that was one of the biggest, you know, downfalls of that for me. You know, the Tenere 700 I really looked a lot into. But when I looked at reviews of kind of how it rode and how it handled, all very positive generally, but I kept hearing that it carries its weight a bit high, and that wasn't good for me, right? So the Tenere was still a high option for me. I really liked the utilitarian nature of it. It's just fantastic. It's kind of basics but done extremely well. But I wanted the added sort of creature comforts of the traction control, the cruise control, the easy shift, quick shifter. All that to me was valuable. So I moved on from the Tenere. The 850 GS. Well, I'm leaving the 750 GS, so it would be kind of not really feel like I'm totally moving on if I just went to the 850. So I didn't really give that a ton of look. The price was, I think, comparable or so, but I knew from the 750 experience that the weight carries a bit high for me as well. Like moving that bike around in the garage for me was, I don't know, I was doing something wrong or something, but I did not feel like it was light at all, especially as I'm comparing it to the Husky right now. But anyway, yeah, couldn't compare to that. The 1250 GS I looked at, I loved just, I love everything about that bike. But I did want a 21-inch wheel. That comes standard at 19. And I didn't want to spend another, $8,000 or whatever it would have been on that bike. And it was super, super heavy. I didn't need a bike that was that heavy, or a bike that had 150 horsepower, 130 horsepower, whatever it is, to make up for the weight. I just didn't need all that. Can't remember what else I really compared it to in earnest. I mean, I was coming from the Himalayan, but, when you look at something like a Himalayan, which costs like $5,000, but has 24 horsepower, when you look at how much more performance in every way, it is worth every extra dollar that you spent to get that. So I would still, even with the issues that I had, I would still get a Himalayan. I really would. I would probably get an older year that has proven to be more reliable. And I think what the problem was with my bike was a brand new year, and every year the emission standards in Europe get more restrictive, and they just leaned out the bike so much that I think it was causing those stalling problems, and who else knows what was going on. It also had the Tripper app on it, which was a great feature, but maybe that electronically had some weird thing to do with, I don't know. But so anyway, I kept looking at it, and I'll post a picture of what that sort of comparison chart looked like. And you could dynamically look at any kind of bike you want, bump up against each other just by changing the drop-down option. So if anyone's interested in using that, or adding their own bike to it, it's very easy, and I can put that in and republish it and send everybody a link to it if you want. But anyway, yeah, I mean, every single category, the Husky was absolutely the best, except maybe for reliability and the fact that it is technically a new model bike. But I kind of figured it's built off the 890 platform, which is built off the 790 platform, and there was definitely issues on the 790, but they seem to have been worked out on the 890. And as soon as you start looking at people's experiences out the gate for a new model, you're gonna hear all the problems. But I really felt like, I was hearing problems, but I was hearing not as much as I would have thought, or not as much consistency, I think. And I was like, I think it's going to be worth it, even if there is some issue I have to work out. I would say the only issue I would say I might have right now is a little bit of a leak on the maybe a countershaft seal or a little bit of oil leaking, but it's really nothing. I mean, it's barely at all. And you know, the dealer said just keep an eye on it, you know. So that's what I'm doing. But otherwise, no, the bike's been fantastic. And the best thing about it is that it is actually one of the lightest in its class. But on top of that, if you compare this weight to the 850 GS weight, you can't even compare it. It's the weight is brought down, or the center of gravity is brought down so much by the saddlebag design fuel tanks, that it is just so much easier to keep upright, frankly, when you're in sand, or to move around the garage, or just to balance at a stoplight. I mean, it's such a design. It's such an amazing design that could have some downfalls, right? With, you know, maybe fuel pumps not working correctly, or different lines disengaging. I mean, who knows? But when it works right, it is just a fantastic design, and the engine is amazing. It's extremely responsive. The technology is amazing. You can really feel the difference in throttle response versus ABS and traction in the different ride modes. The easy shifter works absolutely incredibly, better than my 750 GS. The cruise control is really easy to operate, works tremendously well. I would honestly say the only problem I had with this bike itself, I mean, like, let's just get this out of the way. The skid plate was a joke. You know, if you're going to do any off-pavement stuff, you're going to want to get an upgraded one. But yeah, that is what it is. The mirrors look cool in stock form, but are so rattly in vibration. So many vibrations through it, you can barely see anything through the mirrors and reflection if you're over like 60 mile an hour or 55 mile an hour. So that's the one thing I would say you definitely need to change out. And these are the double take mirrors, which I've never had before. The mirrors on my 750 GS actually worked really well stock, so I never felt a need to get them. But anyway, I did get these double take mirrors, and that's the only thing that I think this bike needs, really needs, as an upgrade. Otherwise, that's it. It's an amazing machine. It performs so nicely on the road that this is why I didn't really want a dual sport, because I wanted something with like this type of power and this type of precision on the road, and then also could just handle like just a big dirt bike, you know, on a trail or off pavement. And this bike does that absolutely perfectly. So that's the story, really. How I moved from Harley to Husky in about a year and a half, maybe a year and 8 months or so. All the bikes that I have owned have just, you know, given me some validation towards a direction that I've landed on here, which I'm extremely happy about. So, you know, I got into motorcycling late. I started, I guess, when I was probably 31. Maybe 31, 32. Yeah, something like that. And so I kind of had to make up for lost time. You know, I kind of had to figure out, like, what do I like about riding, and what do I want to do when I'm riding, and what can I, you know, feel comfortable doing or handle. And this is perfect for me. You know, I do not want anything more powerful. I do not want anything more capable, if you will. I mean, I could, you know, see myself maybe doing a suspension upgrade for like off-road stuff, but I don't even feel confident doing, you know, more extreme stuff than I'm doing today. You know, like I want to do BDRs and I want to do stuff a little bit, you know, more aggressive than that. But this bike can pretty much handle it with the stock suspension. I mean, it really can, especially if you tune it up a little bit. You could tune compression and damping, rebound and compression, and you can adjust the spring at the back. Ugh. So yeah, I could not be happier with this bike. I mean, it is just brilliant. It's it does everything. I mean, you carve up a corner, you throw it in some dirt, some sand, whatever. I mean, it just is perfect. I mean, man, I guess, you know, a couple drawbacks. Like I said, the mirrors, the handlebars are a little bit buzzy, vibraty, and the windscreen causes a lot of people to experience buffeting and wind buffeting. But honestly, it hasn't been super detrimental to me. So I mean I'm on a motorcycle, you know, there's wind. It doesn't bother me all that much, and frankly, I personally am not trying to be on the highway for like you know, hours at a time. So I don't need to be shielded completely from the wind. As long as it's not annoying levels of wind, then I'm good with it. This is a great road if someone wasn't in front of me, but what are you gonna do? I think that tire literally just popped. Yeah, that tire literally just popped. every time I ride, man, I just get this like sigh of relief. It just feels so great. It's just, call it wind therapy. But you can't just get it sitting in front of the fan, you know. You gotta get out and engage your minds, you know, accomplish something difficult. Just focus on just this and